guys. Good morning, good afternoon. Today I'm truly honored to have Mr. Brad Parks with us. Brad is the CMO of Morpheus Data. He joined Morpheus about 4 years ago after 12 working for ATP, and has been a key element of Morpheus' growth. So, Mr. Parks, thanks for coming.
I'm excited to be here. Unfortunately, the M in my title usually means most people deduct about 65 IQ points. So hopefully we can have a good conversation and people will stay tuned. I was an engineer for about 10 years before I was a product manager, and then I ended up in marketing. So I like to joke I was the engineer with the least amount of social anxiety and the best PowerPoint skills, and that's how I ended up here. But no, I enjoy talking about clouds and DevOps and Morpheus. So looking forward to it.
Awesome. So Brad, just yesterday, Analytica released their whole report on hybrid cloud market, and you have been named one of the top influencers in that field. Congratulations about that.
Thank you. I was surprised.
Yeah. Besides that, Morpheus was listed top one brand in the hybrid cloud world. So, do you feel Morpheus has raised the bar on that?
I do. It was interesting when I first joined the company, 4 years ago. People would say, "Oh, I've heard of Morpheus," and I would joke that they probably had seen The Matrix and they thought, they were looking for Lawrence Fishburne, the character from the movie. Today, when I look at Gartner reports and Forrester and search on Google, we hold our own. I like to think we punch above our weight. So it's been an exciting ride the last 4 years.
All right. So most companies in the emerging markets, just like Brazil, as you know, were pushed to adopt cloud computing and cloud native apps, most due to the market pressure last year, of course, impacted by the pandemic. Do you think those companies somewhere in the future will get to a point where they will have to rethink their strategies and go back to on-premise? Is hybrid cloud a natural movement on the path towards the cloud maturity?
I honestly don't think it's unique to markets like Brazil. And in fact, I think cloud computing in general has kind of democratized access to technology, right? I think it's great. It's leveled that playing field. I work a lot with companies in Asia Pacific and Latin America, traditionally what a big vendor might call an emerging market. But I find partners like yourself, a lot of the customers are very mature and very advanced in some of their use of some of these technologies. So it's an exciting time. When it comes to kind of hybrid versus public cloud, I like to think that hybrid cloud it's an inevitability as much as it is a strategy. I think most organizations, as they get to any reasonable size, you just end up with some on-prem, hypervisor-based workloads. A lot of people have hyper-converged clusters that they've stood up over the last 5 or 6 years. Certainly public cloud for certain applications is a natural landing zone for new development. And then you look at things like mergers and acquisitions or partnerships that different companies have. You just end up with very messy platform environments. And that's really why the need for a cloud management overlay has become so important in the last year.
And on the maturity model for cloud computing, what do you think is the next level? So what's next?
Yeah, I think there's probably 2 dimensions. One is, kind of the physical, right? Where are workloads landing? And I do think, distributed cloud or edge computing, pick your marketing word, right? I think is very real. We work with a lot of large service providers who are actively standing up edge-based data centers for certain workloads. That's where the data lives. A lot of it's being aggregated by IoT edge devices, and they need bare metal compute or hypervisor-based applications provisioned out at those edge data centers. Certainly public cloud, private cloud, and hosted cloud will continue to be other destinations. The other kind of element of trend is the platform discussion, right? What are the underlying platforms that these workloads are landing on? And for that, I certainly Kubernetes is everywhere. I think that's a natural progression. I think right now most enterprises are probably in the level of Kubernetes maturity where they were with public cloud 5 years ago. Like it's starting to become mainstream. Central IT is starting to kind of inherit the operational rigor around Kubernetes. So it's kind of the next big hill that a lot of enterprises are trying to climb. At the same time, they're still dealing with hybrid cloud. So we're asking a lot of central platform teams.
And very recently, Morpheus platform released the VDI feature, right? It allows customers to explore the power of VDI without taking it to like VMware or Citrix. Is this also a trend you guys bet for the future of workplaces?
Yeah, VDI is an interesting one. It's when we looked at the capabilities that Morpheus had around, managing pools of resources, providing remote console access into those resources, providing governance. It was actually technically not a big stretch to add a VDI persona into the platform. That said, our core focus is still very much around application lifecycle management, automation across multiple clouds, and bridging that gap between dev and ops. With that specifically, DevOps, one of the use cases around VDI is developer enablement. You bring a new developer on board, getting their kind of development station, all the application dependencies up and running there's often quite a bit of lag time. And so we think a starting place with VDI and Morpheus, in our home space is enablement of developer services, development platforms and tooling that those DevOps teams need. So that's probably where I see an interest. I'll turn it back on you. I'll ask you a question from a local market perspective. Where do you see VDI playing?
Yeah, when I can tell you when I tested it before the VDI feature was released. I was looking for Windows 10 images and see how it works. Even using the standard Morpheus functionalities, and that was interesting at that point.
No.
And even before Persona was released, and I see a feature in a feature in Brazil for VDI, especially for we have in Brazil a handful list of big universities that hold hundreds of thousands of students, and they have dozens of thousands of computers.
Yep.
And when it comes to make those assets up to date with the technology, it takes a lot of money. So billions of them. And looking for the the carbon footprint standpoint. You can take a computer who has 4 or 5 years of use. You can take it to 10.
Sure.
12
Makes sense.
Just having the workloads and all the performance back to the cloud.
Right, back on. Makes sense. Yeah, universities actually, it's a good one. I actually hadn't thought of that. Universities has been a pretty good vertical market for us. We have a lot of universities where the end user that is using Morpheus is not a developer or an ops person. I was actually at a large university up in northeast of the United States, one of our customers, and a professor came in and talking to the IT department and said, "Hey, I'm needing to get my lab ready for next semester." He was the end user of Morpheus. He didn't see vCenter or Amazon or load balancers or networks. He just needed to kind of click a button, enter in a little bit of data about his lab for his end students. So, and those same students are the ones who may need virtual desktop access as part of that semester's class. So no, good point.
Sure. Well, a lot of people with VDI, Morpheus also have other embedded features like Cypher.
Yeah.
A lot workflows, monitoring, and blueprinting is another nice feature that is embedded in Morpheus. Is this list growing somehow? How is the roadmap for Morpheus at this stage?
Yeah, I think the important thing as people start to discover Morpheus, it is, as you know, a very broad platform. But if you stay focused on your core, right? Automation and lifecycle management of applications. That's the center of what we do. A lot of the surrounding modules are all in service of that goal. So Cypher, as you're provisioning an application, you need secrets management. You may need an archive service to grab some files. So a lot of the utilities in Morpheus are there to help as customers are managing application lifecycles. But we're also not trying to compete with every best-in-class tool out there, right? HashiCorp has Vault, right? There are certainly plenty of other tools in the ecosystem that we want to be able to integrate with. But in a smaller environment or a shop that has cost pressure, we want to be able to provide them a built-in service that gets the job done if they don't already have a tool to use.
Yeah, talking about smaller environments, so Morpheus is, such a very complex platform. It integrates with several other platforms, and it plays a key role in simplifying all the provisioning, deployment, the day two. You guys talk a lot about. These challenges are virtually for every big company today.
Sure.
But it's also a challenge for most of the emerging companies, the small business, small and medium business. How are you guys, working to make it affordable for SMBs and allowing to get more traction from I think a lot about user community. So what is the user community standpoint?
Yeah, maybe a couple different questions in there to unpack. I think first, how are we enabling kind of people in smaller footprint shops to start to take advantage of cloud automation? A couple things there. Starting with the services that you mentioned, things like Cypher, even some of our other services like log aggregation, application monitoring. In a larger shop, right, big enterprise, they may have a SIEM logging tool like a Splunk, right? They may have a dedicated monitoring solution like an AppDynamics, but those are pretty expensive enterprise platforms. For smaller markets, our internal log aggregation, our internal application monitoring it's good. I mean, it works. We have a lot of customers who use it. That can help reduce the cost of a total data center environment because these are tools that Morpheus comes with just as out of the box as part of the platform. The other element is we did recently last quarter release an essentials version of the platform. You mentioned all those third-party integrations, right? There's a lot of value for a big enterprise in connecting Morpheus into their ServiceNow environment, as a good example. Companies spend millions of dollars on ServiceNow. They want to be able to take advantage of that. So our enterprise platform provides all of those hooks. But a mid-sized environment that may not need ServiceNow integration, may not need to integrate with their load balancers or Splunk or AppDynamics. Morpheus Essentials is really just that. It's the essential private and hybrid cloud management and basic automation. And it's at a much lower cost point than the enterprise product.
Awesome. Well, you mentioned last quarter, you guys also released the plugin architecture as well, right? So
Did.
How is the feature of plugin architecture? So how do you guys see it?
Yeah, I'm very excited about that over the course of this year. I mean, what we released last fall was kind of version 1, some of the initial plugins, but when I look at our ability to scale and community, you mentioned community in your last question, I think our ability to enable partners as well as customers to build their own integrations, to extend the platform in some very powerful ways is very exciting. And we've even had a lot of interest from other technology providers. So people like Rubrik, Cohesity, Hewlett-Packard, others who said, hey, we want to own our own plugin. We can do the development. We can put some resources against it to help Morpheus scale. That's very exciting because we are still a high growth company and we have to pick where we spend our time. So by enabling other technology providers and partners to develop those extensions, just helps us move faster and helps grow the community base.
Do you have any advice for the Brazilian CIOs and CDOs and engineers? Those one are, looking for getting into this hybrid cloud journey?
Well, I think one of the reasons I love working with Lunar and your team is you are more on the DevOps side of the partner ecosystem, right? And I think with that comes an agile focused attitude, right? You just have to start somewhere, right? I see some of these big enterprise RFPs, and actually the one I spent 6 hours, working on yesterday, it was huge. They've been working on it for 6 months. It's this massive project, and I'm happy to participate, but if they had just started small and done some experimentation, grown that footprint, start to take advantage of more features, they probably would have gone further faster. So I guess my advice for anybody, but certainly in your market, is just start, right? We have the community edition, we have the essentials package. It's much easier to kind of get up and running, learn a little bit, and then start to grow that footprint. I mean, Morpheus can be installed in about 15 minutes, so there's nothing stopping you from starting and having a play and then growing that and adding to it over time.
That's great. So last but not least, have you tried Clubhouse yet?
I've not. You're the one who told me about it. I have a 17-year-old daughter. She's going to educate me on the power of these platforms. I'm a Luddite for all that I say. I used to be an engineer. I don't use social technology as much as I should. So I'm excited to learn more about it, and I appreciate you having me on and introducing me to the platform.
Awesome. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Brad Parks. Brad, thank you so much for your time, and that was a very, very nice talk.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Awesome.